So in our reading this morning from 2 Kings, we see Naaman, commander of the Aramean army, and he's trying to find healing from his leprosy. And so one of his servants who's from Israel suggests that he go to her homeland because there's a great prophet there. And that might be a place that he can go for help. This prophet, we later learn, is the prophet Elisha, who learned from the great prophet Elijah, who is the one who's swept away in the chariot of fire. And so Naaman travels to Israel searching for Elisha. And because he's heard that he's a great prophet, Naaman goes where one would normally think a great prophet was, the palace of the king. But when he sends his messengers to the king of Israel saying, "We're looking for this great prophet," the king panics. Because Naaman hasn't found healing so far. So why does he think he's going to find healing in a small little backwater country in the middle of this great area? Why does he think that anything different is going to happen in Israel? And so the king thinks what most politically savvy people would think, and he starts to freak out, thinking, oh my goodness, he's coming to incite us. He's coming to come in, see that we can't do this thing, and then run over and take us over. The end of our kingdom is nigh. Fortunately for him, God is at work. And even though Elisha is fairly far away, up to the north of Jerusalem in the land of Samaria, a good several days' walk, he somehow hears about what's going on. And so he says to the king, "Why are you freaking out? Just send him to me." And so Naaman goes to see Elisha and gets an unexpected reception. Because he's a general of a great land, he might have expected the prophet to come out himself to meet him. But Elisha treats him just like anybody else and sends one of his servants out to greet this great general. And this is all that his servant tells him to do. Go, wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh shall be restored, and you shall be clean. And Naaman gets angry. And to understand why he gets angry at this, there's something that we need to understand about the River Jordan. It's not that big. Not at all. In my own journey to Israel, we were told when we were on the bus getting ready to drive over this tiny little bridge that goes over the River Jordan, don't blink, because if you blink, you're going to miss it. Which is more or less true, because it took 2 times for me passing over this bridge to actually get a picture of the River Jordan. And it wasn't really that good of a picture at all. And then we did go to another spot while I was there at the River Jordan where John likely may have baptized Jesus. And this spot, too, is pretty small. I took a video of the baptism that we performed there. And even if I tried, I wouldn't have been able to get a shot in this video where you couldn't see the other shore, the other side of the river. And in fact, Sophie and I were walking in the botanical gardens in Birmingham yesterday, And I was commenting on in this pond there by the Japanese tea garden that if from the side we were at to the other side of this pond, I was pretty sure that was about the same side, the same amount of distance from where we were when we did this baptism to the country of Jordan on the other side. And in fact, I'm not even sure that that length of distance in the River Jordan is the same as in this pond. So this pond in Birmingham may actually be wider than the River Jordan. So it's not a great river. It's holy for us because of the many things that have happened there. But in looking at it, I can definitely say I've seen bigger. In fact, the creek that I rode in college even may be wider. Actually, no, now that I think about it, it is wider. It's much wider than the River Jordan, a creek. So this is why Naaman's upset. Because of all the rivers Elisha could have sent him to go, why did he send him to this one? Why not something with a little more pizzazz, a little more importance? And it takes one of Naaman's servants to point out, if the prophet had commanded you to do something difficult, would you not have done it? How much more when all he said to you was, wash and be clean? And fortunately, Naaman realizes that his servant is right. And he goes and washes in this tiny river. And of course, Naaman is made clean. And he returns to Elisha and makes his confession that the God of Israel must be the only God. And as we see, if we read a little bit further in this passage than what we read today, after this reading, he repents. That is, he turns back and does all in his power to give proper thanks to God. Now, what happened in this story is of the utmost importance. Not because Naaman was healed, but because of how he was healed. As our patron saint here, Paul, whose seal is right in front of me in this pulpit, says in 2 Corinthians, God's power is made perfect in weakness. And that is something that we see here in this reading today. In spite of all that we think, especially in this day and age, God doesn't work in the way that we would expect. He doesn't work through the royal courts or the places of power. Instead, he works through a man in the desert, alone, and in a rough, mountainous, and isolated part of the country. And in all of this, all of these actions, God doesn't work through pomp or ceremony. Elisha does not greet this general as someone special, but as a normal person coming to see him. He doesn't send Naaman to a great and mighty river, but to a small and humble one. And without any great ceremony, God still works on Naaman. He still heals him. without a great and mighty river, without any sort of ceremonial trappings. God does what he says he will do through Elijah. And that is why Naaman worships God as the one true God after this event. Because no other God could possibly perform what he did. No other God, no one else even, could take what is weak and ordinary and make it powerful. And all this turning of events, this turning of what's weak and ordinary to what is great and powerful, that is exactly what we see through our own faith in Jesus Christ, our Lord. Because here is the son of humble parents who ends up causing this small, humble child. He causes even the great King Herod to tremble in fear. Here is a man who in the course of his ministry was not triumphant, but instead was killed in the most painful and humiliating way imaginable. And through this man of a humble life and a terrifying death, through him, God works the salvation of the world. God rarely works in the ways that we would expect, because we expect something great and grand. We don't expect power made perfect in weakness. But thankfully, we have the most powerful of all possible gods, because this is a God who can work power through weakness. He is a God who is willing to humble himself in Jesus by becoming one of us. He is a God who can work the greatest of miracles in what seems simple and ordinary to us. And for all of that, for all that power made perfect in weakness, we can truly say, thanks be to God.